So tonight our sponsors on Patreon and Subscribestar will have the rare opportunity to see the video that shut down Jimmy and JoAnne. Welcome back to the show, guys. How are you?
We're fine. Thank you, Jason.
Tonight we're going to show everybody false flag operations absolutely in effect. So this proof positive of how the criminal, deep state, and other entities produce these false flags, how they operate them, and all this information came from the tribes to us and is absolute proof positive. We'll go through all the details on them, but they're so damning.
We'll go through on our Patreon video.
Yeah, it's the type of thing that gets you kicked off of YouTube right away, and you
guys
experience within an hour. Wow.
Within an hour, we were down.
Well, that's why we are doing this show on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty and patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth. It's a multi-purposed campaign. Obviously, you guys have been soft-killed, you've been blacklisted, you have your accounts, multiple millions of dollars frozen out there in Libya. You had a really innovative business and they just would not let you make any money with it. And of course, when you came back to the United States, it's just impossible for you to do anything. Your computers are frozen up, you're getting shut down from YouTube. So it's really important that people go and visit patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. If you're watching right now on patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth. I also want people to go over to LibyanWarTheTruth.com. That's Jimmy and JoAnne's website. They're constantly posting articles and insights with great detail of what's going on in Libya. They're the only people I know who are talking to the tribal leaders, and you of course can still get their DVD, Escape from Al-Qaeda. It's you're going to save $5 free shipping if you sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty. So guys, what are we going to see tonight? We can't really show it here on YouTube, or Crowdsource the Truth will be relegated to the YouTube rubble heap, but give us some insight into what it's going to be.
Well, the first one we're going to do, there's two videos. The first one is gas being fired off in Syria by the so-called rebels, but they're really mercenaries. They're al-Nusra, they're terrorists, they're like ISIS, they're groups of people that are put into countries to take them over. Anyway, this group is firing off gas.
These are like giant grenades shot out of a wheeled grenade launcher, if you would, inside Damascus. The weapons were built in the United States, transported to Saudi Arabia to Turkey, and Turkey inside Damascus.
Yeah,
these were fired off right after Obama drew the line in the sand, and he said, if this guy uses any gas on his people, we're going to blow hell out of Syria. You remember when Obama did that? Well,
yeah.
The tribe sent us this video within a day or two of him making that declaration. And yes, gas was shot off inside Damascus, but none of the media, none of the experts could figure out what kind of rocket Syria had used to launch them. Well, here's proof positive, shot through a
somebody's cell phone.
Cement block wall, where they're videotaping these weapons being offloaded out of a truck and put on a caisson type weapon and fired off inside Damascus.
And they're not Assad. It's the people Assad is fighting.
These are I think it was Ansar al-Sharia or al-Nusra. I think al-Nusra was
al-Nusra. But they're the proxy army of the New World Order. So the mantra was Assad's going to use gas. So they have these.
And that's an asinine assumption. If any leader is fighting enemies, why would you gas your own people? Why would you go gas the enemy?
People are standing with Assad. There's no reason for him to gas his own people.
Well, it seems so contrived for somebody like Obama to say that.
100%.
And of course, no one would do it. I mean, the simple fact is, somebody like Bashar Assad knows that if he were to use these banned chemical weapons, it would invoke the wrath of the United Nations, the United States, and NATO, which it's almost like Brer Rabbit saying, "Don't throw me in the briar patch," and then they're just going to do it, right? I mean, it's like provoking them or giving them an excuse. It's something we've seen happen so many times. Even when Trump first came in, I was really disappointed when he went ahead with the missile strike after all the evidence indicated that it was not, in fact, a legitimate gassing in the way that they said. That's why I've named this episode, Who is Gaslighting the World?
Yeah, exactly. That's
Well,
a good
Jason,
one.
you know, your function, your self proclaimed demonstration against the media, the reason you have so much traction is because the people see the truth and what you're putting out, all the guests you have, you know, the mainstream media, the paid for media, the 6 or 7 corporations own all of them. They put forward these lies and they keep telling them, and then the dumbed down people, the sheeple, you know, they believe what they hear because, my gosh, it's the media saying it.
Yeah.
But here's proof positive on this video, and this video is so damning that they killed JoAnne's YouTube site with less than an hour of her putting it up.
Wow.
And then the second video is even more telling because it's a staged movie.
Right.
And the director is giving directions to all these people. Now do this, put your heart there. And we don't have the final version where they added the dialogue in there, but this is the director's instructions to all these actors that are claiming to be, what were they, Muslim Brotherhood being assassinated in Egypt.
This is when Morsi was thrown out of Egypt by 30 million Egyptians who took to the street to throw him out, because being the head of Muslim Brotherhood, he was stopping all traffic there, all the people that came on vacation, all the visitors that came to see the pyramids. They were going to be attacked, and they were warned, don't come here. And
wow.
I think Egypt, 90% of their economy is based on tourism. So the
Wow.
people of Egypt were suffering terribly.
Why did he want to do that? It makes no sense.
I know. And well, because they were killing Christians, Coptic Christians were killed, a bunch of them under his watch. So they just went to the streets, and they took General Sisi into his office, 30 million of them, and he was carried out. He was done. And so after this was done, supposedly the Muslim Brotherhood took to the streets, and they were being killed by the government that was put in. This was all a lie. So this
now,
is
if you expand on that picture of him on his forehead, you'll see tattooed, "I am Hillary's puppet."
Well, you know, it's interesting, Jimmy, because I don't know if you guys got a chance to check out the video that I posted on Patreon. I'm just searching for it here. But last Thursday, I think it was, Bill and Hillary Clinton were here in New York City, and they had their, evening with the Clintons thing with Paul Bagara or whatever his name is. And I actually recorded it, and I put it up on Patreon, and people can see what they were saying. They made mention of Morsi. She said she was vague, right? And I was like, now wait a minute. I think this is what I've heard Jimmy and JoAnne talking about, with Mohammed Morsi being the Muslim Brotherhood leader of Egypt. But she didn't go into too many details, and I feel like that's how she likes to do stuff, because if you start looking at the details, that's when you find all the criminality. So she just want to gloss over it, but people can see that on the Crowdsource the Truth Patreon page. You got to get on there and check out the evening with the Clintons. I don't have the moment queued up, but it's about an hour and 30-minute presentation. You can literally watch Bill and Hillary grift in real time here on Patreon. It's fantastic. They're up there talking about all the wonderful countries they've destroyed.
Put Morsi in. And we have proof that she was funding the Muslim Brotherhood out of the U.S. Embassy. So, that was all her deal. Wow. And it wasn't, when he was thrown out, then they tried to say, oh, the U.S. has to step in again because these people are hurting Muslim Brotherhood. They're killing people in the streets. It was all a lie. And some of the Egyptians videotaped them making one of their false flags. So that's what this is.
Yeah.
That's when John McCain and Lindsey Graham went over there and demanded that al-Sisi work with the United States and let them tell him how to run his country. And he
Didn't
said,
they ask him to reinstall Morsi?
No, they asked him that the United States needs to advise you how to run your country. And he said, we're capable of running our own country and making our own decisions. Thank you very much.
Also, another telling thing, Obama paid Morsi $8 billion
for what?
To buy half of the Sinai Peninsula so the Muslim Brotherhood would have a homeland. Wow. That information was inside his desk when his offices were overrun. That information was also captured. And then shortly thereafter, Obama called the general and said, well, I need you to return the $8 billion along with all the documentation on that transaction with Morsi. And the general said, I don't think we're going to do a full investigation from this end, and don't
Yeah.
expect anything from us.
I was going to
Okay,
say,
no,
I don't
really.
think there's ever been a moment in history where anybody ever returned $8 billion.
No.
Yeah.
That's
Obama
definitely.
was a little arrogant, don't you
Yeah.
think?
Well, I just think they got that sign there that says no refunds once you start giving out
Yeah,
$8 billion.
exactly. Exactly. But he's
So-
Obama.
In just 5 minutes, guys, we're going to transition over to the show where we will reveal these videos. Of course, we can only do that on Patreon. So, Patreon and Subscribestar. It's patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, patreon.com/Crowdsource the Truth, and subscribestar.com/Crowdsource the Truth. The reason why we do this is because it changes the equation a little bit. I think some people in the chat were expressing some dissatisfaction that I've got this Clinton video behind the paywall, as it were. But see, there's a really easy way for the Clintons to shut that type of information down. They don't have to take any legal action. They can just go to YouTube and say, hey, this is violating our copyright because someone uploaded a video of our show. But I actually don't want to make it easy for them. If the Clintons want to come after me for a copyright violation, I want them to actually take legal action so that we can get into a dispute, and I'll start to ask for some discovery on some proof of the claims that they were making on stage there to charge people and come and listen to them speak. As you guys are pointing out, I think they're lying about a lot of the things that they said there, and that would make charging people to see it a fraud if you're presenting it as a factual conversation rather than a crappy Broadway show, which is what it really was. So people can see that over on Patreon, but what you guys will be showing us is the real deal. And Jimmy, what I sort of interpreted when I saw it was that this was kind of a dress rehearsal for the video that they were going to do, and it's not the first time we've seen that. There was a video that came out of New Zealand prior to the mosque shooting that almost looked the same kind of a thing, like they're staging one of these resilience exercises. We heard there was a police exercise going on at the same time that the shooting was going on. We're always hearing about these exercises. It seems weird.
Okay, if that was the case, why would they have yanked? That one got yanked in 30 minutes. If that was just some kind of exercise,
Well,
they could have said, hey,
because
it was an exercise. No, it got yanked in 30 minutes.
It reveals what they're doing. It's that if you start to put the pieces together, then you'll know. I'm not saying it's an inconsequential video. I'm saying it's giving us insight into how these things are done. David Hawkins always talks about how they have the different stages where they spin the news and they spoil the evidence and all this kind of thing. So I think we're looking at the spin portion of it when we see those rehearsal videos. A lot of people are asking about the news that's going on in Paris, of course. Notre Dame Cathedral, terrible, burning. This is kind of like a 9/11 for Paris, not necessarily in terms of the toll on life, but the psychological impact that something like that has on the French psyche. Notre Dame is a historic site, a religious site, an architectural site, really terrible. What do you guys know about this? Have you heard much about this incident?
No, listen, Jason, since we came out with the Benghazi information, we were talking to you for some time about that. Since that's happened, they have been unmercifully attacking all our computer systems and everything. We're barely operating. We're at about 5%. And so we spend all day, every day, trying to patch up JoAnne's computer, which is the workhorse. They remove ports from the motherboard electronically, all these things.
Drivers disappeared from the internet, hookup, and all kinds of stuff.
We haven't got it right yet. So we're really sleeping a few hours every night trying to get our system patched up. We don't have any security other than ourselves and our little dog. And when this kind of attack hit us, it's really devastating. We are struggling trying to get through that. But that shows the importance of what you're helping us put out, because they have absolutely redoubled their efforts to come after us. And just today, they classified JoAnne's YouTube site as adult content only.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
we were talking about this earlier. Jimmy's just too sexy for YouTube.
You know, I was going to tell you, well, before we leave, that Scott Bennett, you know, we've talked to him a lot and worked with him a lot. And he said our intelligence, he said, for the intelligence he was in, he said, what you have is raw. You have raw intelligence. You don't work for a government. You've never worked for intelligence agencies. You've never been in the military. You've never done. He said, so all the information that is passed to you from Libya is raw. He said, this is the primo intel from the people. And he said, what has happened is this intel belongs to you. He said, they can't take it from you. They can't be mad at you for putting it out. They can be mad at you for putting it out and shut you down. But they can't do anything. It's not like, you know, we went and hacked somebody's email.
Right.
It was given to us.
Right.
So he said it's really important that it gets out.
Yeah, Scott's been speaking with me quite a bit, speaking of hacking, about Julian Assange. And of course, he's been charged with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion. Very strange charge because it's a crime with a 5-year statute of limitations. And the allegation is that it occurred in 2010. People have speculated that they might be utilizing this to get the United Kingdom to extradite Assange to the U.S., where they may introduce more serious charges like espionage, and the logic being that the United Kingdom wouldn't extradite someone who would face the death penalty. I certainly hope the Trump DOJ does not expect to impose the death penalty, or really any penalty, on Assange. I would like to see them pardon Assange. I like Julian Assange. There's all kinds of different...
Don't you find it interesting, Jason, that the person who broke the law, who is an actual traitor, who put out the stuff in their emails, is not being charged, and the person, all we're doing is charging the messenger?
Yes. Not only do I find that strange.
So I see the real evil part about this is he's in the custody of a private entity. It's one of those corporations that is providing government-like services.
It's a Serco-controlled prison.
And I'm afraid he will suffer an untimely demise. They do not want him in court here, where he then can bring forward all this information and start really pointing the fingers. Bless his heart. I pray for him.
He didn't hack anything. He was given.
Yeah.
You know.
And
well, that's the allegation. Again, I'm not saying he did or didn't. I just was looking at the indictment, and he's been charged in the United States with conspiracy to commit computer intrusion or something along those lines, and they arrested him last week. Of course, Jimmy, I share your concern about his safety there in one of the most dangerous prisons in the United Kingdom, controlled by Serco, the corporation that David Hawkins has told us so much about. And I've been speaking with David quite a bit. We'll hear more on Wednesday. But it's just about that time right now, Jimmy and JoAnne, for us to transition over to the main show on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty and patreon.com/crowdsource the truth. People that don't want to watch on Patreon can also see the show on subscribestar.com/crowdsource the truth. But really the most important thing is that people support Jimmy and JoAnne. I couldn't do this show without them, and it's also very important that people go over to LibyanWarTheTruth.com. If you become a sponsor on patreon.com/James and JoAnne Moriarty, you're going to save $5 on the overall price of the Escape from Al-Qaeda DVD. You just need to sponsor Jimmy and JoAnne on Patreon and then send them an email saying that you want the DVD, and they'll cover the shipping for you. It's just $15, and you can watch all the videos and see all the information they've got on this DVD. Even if you don't want to watch it, it's a great way to support Jimmy and JoAnne. They need our support. And guys, I'll see you over on patreon.com in just 10 minutes at 7 p.m. Eastern, where we will be revealing these videos that got you kicked off of YouTube faster than a Texas two-step. We'll see you there, guys. Thanks for watching, everybody.